Today, I'm really excited to have Spencer Camp on the podcast. Spencer is the founder of Future, which is a super app that allows you to connect all different fintech areas such as investing, stocks, crypto, credit, etc. in one app. Prior to founding Future, Spencer had worked on a couple other mobile applications as well, such as Reality News and Slide. He had also worked as a product designer at Sling TV, Wix.com, Thermo Fisher Scientific, and Accenture. It was really interesting to see how Spencer taking different trends in technology, such as banking and a service, and utilizing that in order to put in a new functionality in a super app. Spencer is specifically focusing on fintech, but I think the work that Spencer is doing can definitely apply in a bunch of different other fields and will likely be groundbreaking for the fintech industry and perhaps other industries as well that maybe use future as a roadmap for what success can look like. So, really excited to get into it. I really enjoyed having Spencer on, and I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Hello, Spencer, and welcome to the podcast. Really glad to have you.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk with you as well.
Perfect. Well, let's get into it. So, what got you into entrepreneurship and how do you get started in all of this?
So I see entrepreneurship as it's an adventure. It's all about embarking on a journey and trying to create something really great that the world hasn't yet experienced. And like kind of how I define an adventure is it's all about kind of pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and trying to, yeah, again, like embark on something that has not been done before. It's supposed to be fun and
Mm-hmm.
a little bit ambitious. And you'll see that like the startup that I chose to start is extremely ambitious. It's almost like crazy. And a lot of people, will immediately push back like, oh my gosh, like that's it. Are you really competing against like PayPal and Sofi? And it's funny, Sofi is like right down the street. So I'm kind of like, oh yeah, that's not a huge deal, but I think like, it is kind of crazy to compete against these massive companies. And like the I could, I don't know if you want, I'd be happy to get into a little bit about what future is and like why this ambitious adventure for me is all about having fun, creating something amazing, and then just helping people in the world. Like it's got to be like complex, but it sometimes things are kind of simple. Like it's just kind of that's how it is.
Well, future seems so tied to your story, so let's just get into it. Let's talk about future and just get into it.
Sure. Okay. So, I mean, like a little bit of my background, I am a product designer and I approach things from like a design lens. I'm
Mhm.
always thinking about creating something with an experience tied to it that has something, that makes people feel a certain way, that solves problems and kind of really leads to good conclusions in people's lives, helps people accomplish things and accelerates their capabilities.
Right.
I think like that's and future is it's kind of like it basically just so everyone knows it's a fintech app and basically like SoFi, how they're creating a kind of like an all-in-one financial services product. That's we're doing the exact same thing, trying to create an all-in-one financial super app,
Right.
and that just means like you've got like all these different apps. You've got mint.com, you've got Robinhood, you probably, Coinbase, you've got this massive landscape of different fintech apps that have really picked apart all these big traditional banks.
Yep.
And, you've got the traditional banks, the massive world of the fintech apps. And what I'm trying to do is create a super app,
Right.
combine and rebundle everything out into one nice, beautiful, sweet experience.
Right. Yeah. And so, I think, like you sort of mentioned, there are just so many new startups that have come up. They're not startups anymore. Now they're huge companies. But in the last 5 or 6 years, so many new fintech giants have popped up, like SoFi, Robinhood. So for you, like, what was that pivotal moment that made it the right problem to start solving and led you towards that direction?
So yeah, I mean, I'm kind of a finance nerd. I
Hmm.
did my undergrad in business. I took a year of accounting and really felt that for the longest time, there's not been like a piece of technology that has really gained my interest to the extent that it helped me solve the financial problems I was dealing with and that I was seeing other people deal with as well, which is, the ability to really cohesively and holistically manage your financial life. And I'm a SoFi user. I use Robinhood. I use Coinbase. I use all these different, I've tried them all, like Albert, Digit,
Right.
Dave. Like there's just like there's a ridiculous amount of them, and they've
There's a
all got
bunch of
really
them.
cool names and mascots and cool stuff like that. But I'm not like Chime is like they just opened an office down the street that is massive, and they're all these different fintech apps are they just don't quite cut it. And it's weird for me to say that, like from my personal experience, they don't quite cut it because for a lot of people, they serve a certain need. Like Chime, for instance, quick, easy bank account. You can just create and they'll forward you some money. Or Coinbase, you can really deal with kind of the crypto Web3 world very easily, and it's kind of like an accessible bridge to that. And Robinhood, you can invest money in it. I actually love the experience of Robinhood. I'm
Right.
very, huge respect for them. But I feel like, again, we get to like the fragmented nature of all of this. There's like definitely a problem to solve where I'm kind of leaning into trying to, like, as a designer, take all this fragmentation and turn it into a unity, turn it into
Right.
like a oneness so that, the experience that you initially have when you open the app is number one, your mind should be blown at how simple it is, but at the same time, how holistic all the different categories of finance can be, boiled down to like the simple user interface and how, as you walk through it, it hopefully, helps you live your life financially.
Right. Right. I think, one thing that's really unique that you mentioned there is that, right now there's a fragmented nature with fintech apps. You have Robinhood for investing, you have Coinbase for investing in crypto, and, there's a whole, and Chime for bank accounts, for example. Which, they have their own purpose, but I think, if we look at other industries, for example, like, there's so many big companies now with different ecosystems that are able to leverage all these different features together. They're under one umbrella, but because they're under, one entity, they're able to make features that you can't get in a fragmented nature here.
Hmm.
So, when you think about future, for example, is that sort of the mindset there where you're thinking about the different integrations you're able to do with the products? Is that something on the roadmap?
That's definitely the play. And I'd say like ecosystem is the right word. And the
Hmm.
super app is in and of itself an ecosystem. And I think Block is a great example of an ecosystem play. They
Right.
they have their own separate, flywheels or positive feedback loops that themselves play into each other and they connect loosely. Now, the problem with an ecosystem, like all these different companies versus a super app, I'd say SoFi is more of like a super app. Is these two things are, ecosystems are decentralized, dislocated pieces of a potential positive feedback loop. Whereas you spin them all together, they end up with a really nice result. And they can almost look like holding companies, but they're at the
Right.
same time just loosely connected. Where if you really wanted to expand your business and run payroll and send money to people and accept money, you could do that all under the umbrella of the ecosystem of Cash App mixed with Square, mixed, all those things in the Block ecosystem, and then you can add
Right.
Bitcoin in there. But then on the other hand, a super app is more of a united, uh, as opposed to an ecosystem. It's more of a united one user experience, and SoFi
Right.
does this. We don't really have too many super apps. I think you mentioned that in a little bit, a while ago, and like super apps themselves, I think are, we're kind of pioneering what they look like, but as a lot of people know, like in other countries, they're much more normal.
Yeah.
But here, we more have focused apps. So I'm trying to more do the super app thing as opposed to the ecosystem.
Right. Yeah, no, 100%. And I mean, so I recently took a trip to Indonesia with a couple friends, and I know, in Indonesia there's two really big super apps, Gojek and Grab. And for me, North America, I haven't seen North America, get a hold of super apps as much as Asia.
Mm.
So it sort of blew my mind the first time I got to, like, I got introduced to this, like, a proper huge super app like Grab and Gojek, and it's just, it's crazy to me because at the beginning I was like, this is a little bit weird, everything's under one, like, in one app, but then you realize the convenience of it, where it's like, if you want to call, so with Grab, it's sort of like Uber Eats, but there's also other functionality, like you can call people to do work at your house and stuff like that. So,
Hmm.
like, having all the functionality in one app, even though initially it felt a little bit weird, I started to see the benefits of it, where it's like you just go to, it's like a one-stop shop. You go there, you don't have to necessarily go find another app to go download. It's one account. It's so you don't have to put different payment methods, stuff like that. So I was just wondering, like, for that, first of all, do you think there's a reason why in North America super apps haven't necessarily caught on as much as the rest of the world? And second, like, what do you think future does unique that sort of addresses that?
Yeah, I think like I've the in the movements of businesses and as they change and ebb and flow in cycles and business cycles and macroeconomics, like I've always felt like there's two different plays. There's the bundle and then there's the unbundle, right? Like there's you can either consolidate or you can divide. And I think we've just recently went through a massive dividing period where the
Mhm.
traditional banks were actually kind of the original financial super apps. They, JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, Citigroup, Bank of America, they consolidated. You could go to like a bank branch and your entire financial life could be covered. You can get a loan, you can do financing, they do sometimes do insurance deals. You could do anything financial you want with one bank. And then
Right.
came, the financial crisis, and then, the technology of, mobile apps and the lack of adoption and just kind of like sitting on their hands, and the regulatory red tape made it so that these traditional banks didn't really innovate at all. They kind of just sat on what their existing technology stack was. So Robinhood and Coinbase and all these different, Chime, they kind of pulled apart the bundle and they unbundled everything and just completely the landscape just became the wild west of, you've got 10 different apps doing finance, and it's on, and that's kind of where we're currently at. And I think like right now what we've also seen is that there's this new infrastructure being created called banking as a service, which a lot of people
Mhm.
don't, if you're not familiar with the fintech space, you're not. It's kind of like the new, really exciting thing. And I think will be even more impactful than crypto or anything out there is basically there are companies that have taken banking and they've turned it into an API and they've taken insurance and they turned it into an API. And now literally everything is an API. So that, in the technical like space of things, like that basically means we now have I think the shift or the turning point where all of the infrastructure that banks had unique to themselves, including regulatory, red tape and all that types of things, now you just plug it into your app and you can run with it. They kind of a third party takes care of the servicing part of the creation of bank accounts and the servicing of loans and the underwriting of loans and like the insurance and all those types of things are taken care of by these third parties where you can just plug them into your app. And I kind of think
Right.
that everything will eventually be an API, and what future is we're just plugging it all in, and
Right.
the end user experience is like, okay, you don't really know who's providing what, but we're kind of taking care of that on the back end, plugging it in, and yeah, creating a new bundle where you can just join future and literally just like you could back in the day, you could digitally take care of your entire like financial life in like a single app.
Right. And that actually was gonna relate to my next question, because I was gonna talk about, like, you know because you're taking on all these different giants, for example, like SoFi, Chime. I was gonna ask you, like, do you feel like you might be spreading yourself too thin? But like you mentioned there's all these companies that are working on the ape, like on the back end, pretty much the servicing part of these functionalities. So by offering it in one UI, like you don't have to build those new services. You're just plugging it into your app and making it one cohesive experience. That's really unique, actually.
Yeah, it's kind of the design. It's a design problem, I think, is how do you
Right.
create this really complex super app in a design that is easy to use and is at first glance extremely simple. So it's got the complexity within the simplicity kind of problem, and that's a design problem. So that's right up my alley. Is a lot of startups aren't design problems. They're technical. They're they've got to you've got to implement some new technology. We're not really doing that. We're really it's the combination of all the different like services out there and presenting them in UI. That's the technological problem. It's making it so the user experience is amazing. And I think that
Right.
that's going to be the tough part. And I'm super excited about like future for that very reason. I believe, we're going to launch pretty soon our MVP and like have it out in the public. So, anyone's listening and wants to try it out, I'm happy to help you with that in any way possible. But it's gorgeous, like absolutely beautiful and gorgeous. In my opinion, it's better than anything else out there. But that remains to be seen. We'll see.
I'm super excited about it, and I think one thing that's really underrated that when you're coming from a technical background, or honestly, a lot of people who are in startups for a while too, I think it takes them a while to realize is that being the most technically sound isn't necessarily going to make you win in the market. Because at the end of the day, like you can have whatever technology you want in the back end, but it's about what the customer sees and as about what the customer's experiences. And so, like, yeah, like even in this case, even delivering the same experience that the customer has, but in a new package, with integrations that weren't possible before, can go such a long way, and it can create so much value. You don't have to necessarily own the technical stack in the back end necessarily. So no, I'm really excited about that, and I'll definitely, I'll leave a link in the notes for anybody who wants to try. They can reach out to you, and I'll. Do you have a website for the
Yeah.
app yet,
So,
or?
and we just got a new URL. So it's join future. Oh wait, so it's yeah, joinfuture.com. That's it. I was like,
Okay,
is it
okay.
that simple? Yeah, it's joinfuture.com. Future.com is not something that we could have gotten. That's like
Oh man,
way
that would have cost a lot.
joinfuture.com.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'll leave a link for that, in the notes. But super exciting.
Mhm.
And I guess sort of related to that, is there any other super apps coming up in the space that you're excited about?
So I think the space for super apps is so I mean, I'm more of like focused on the financial space, of course. And
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
super app, it's a fluid definition of what is a super app. I see it as a bundle of various services, and it can be really anything. And I think like, right now we're seeing a massive shift where all the finance apps like Robinhood, Coinbase, they're actually moving towards becoming super apps. My prediction of the
Right.
future is actually that in a few years or 10 years, we're going to see probably 7 to 10 financial super apps, which they'll have a bank account or various bank accounts that you can create. You can issue debit cards. You'll be able to get a credit card with them. Probably there'll be a gateway to crypto. There'll be some sort of lending or borrowing or a you know extension of capital to you in some sort of way. And then yeah, probably some sort of uh, link in with insurance, whether you're insuring your phone, insuring something that you have. So like all these apps out there, including Chime, Robinhood, they're all going to extend themselves to become
Right.
super apps. So really, we're just kind of like moving forward to what I believe the industry will be in the future, which is every
Right.
finance space will bundle itself because the unit economics work so much better in the long run.
Right.
Um, yeah.
And I mean, you'll have the first movers advantage if everybody's going towards that. And I think actually one thing that's really interesting, and it's related, but it's in a different
Hmm.
industry, is like, Facebook, for example, added a bunch of new features to their app to make a sort of super app where, you need a marketplace, and you have dating now, stuff like that. But because their initial offering was just Facebook, I think if you look at the design even today, it's a little bit tough for them to like integrate those different features under the Facebook collective, because the UI and design was never made for that, and they can't completely overhaul the UI and lose their core customers. So I think
Yeah.
one really unique advantage that Future has is that you guys are coming in from you guys get to come in from the ground, from ground
Mm.
zero, and set up a design that is catered towards having all these different functionalities. While something like Robinhood, for example, as they move towards adding these different new functionalities, they can't change their design drastically like you guys can, because they have to keep catering to their core audience that they had at the beginning.
That's 100% correct. And that's kind of the play, is that the ecosystems like Block and their disparate apps being a positive feedback loop, as well as these kind of apps that are expanding to become super apps, they themselves don't have the architecture that lends itself to a great user experience, and that's the user experience problem again. Whereas Future
Right.
is the play is that we're going to have a great user experience from the ground up. It's going to be scalable, a scalable user experience. The navigation system is designed specifically so that we can hang things upon it, so that it can expand with us, so that we can continue, like, actually, if you're going to have your holistic finances all on one app, we're actually going to just bundle everything out. There's an API for bundling taxes, so that we can input all of that into a tax system, so that you can just push a button and essentially do all your taxes, because you have a budgeting
Right.
system where you're categorizing all your expenses. You have your all your checking accounts, and then every single bank that you own linked to it, as well as lending product, crypto wallet, whatever, pretty much everything's all linked in. So, this tool called Column Tax, they're an API, and they basically service taxing, like, or taxes. So you just push a button and it's super easy. So, like, it's a compounding effect as each product is
Right.
added to the whole, like, product. It becomes like a compounding value add to the end asset. So, like, I think the flip side of, like, when you look at why create a business, one reason is to help people and to pursue an adventure, an ambitious goal, and to, like, try to expand yourself and to help other people. I think that's one way. Another way is you see, like, an inefficiency in a market where the fragmented fintech market is each individual app is not really able to make money, because they're basically features and they're not products. Like, think of I think Truebill was one recent budgeting app where they do a great job budgeting, but they were just purchased by Rocket Mortgage. And my suspicion is that a lot of these other apps that are merely like features, like Mint.com was acquired by Intuit, Cash, or not Cash App, Venmo was acquired by PayPal. All these, like,
Right.
individual little features that are really awesome, they don't have great unit economics in the end of the day, because they're unbundling the bank. But when you rebundle, like, the bank is a really great business model, because you have all of,
Yeah.
like, the average revenue per user is so much higher, so that you can really actually, it's kind of a win-win situation. You can you end up having more revenue per user, but at the same time, on the flip side, you can give them discounts on, let's say, their lending rates, or you can give them discounts on
Right.
their credit card, or give them a better interest on their balance. All those types of things, you can do that because they now use more services that you have. So, like, win-win situation. It's like a positive feedback loop on the end of things. So I think that's I'm leaning into that as well with Future.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, now that you're talking about it, yeah, like, when you have a checking account, that checking account can then lead into you getting an investing account, getting a mortgage. The whole, all of finance is just open to you when the moment you join a bank. But there's obviously a lot of inefficiencies with the bank that we have currently, and even though they are working towards that, just being a big institution, they can't move as fast as something like a startup, which is sort of ripe for disruptive innovation. That's that's the sort of powder keg ready for
One
that.
thing
So,
I'm wondering,
uh,
would you like to talk about, like, I think, the perspective that I bring uniquely is that I focus on design and creating things.
mhm,
What is it that you have to do to create a magical product? I think is the end,
mhm,
that's the question. And there's the technology side of things where you've got to implement this. And my co-founder, Juan Alvarez, super great at that. And we're kind of like a great partnership team. But like, what is a magical, design and experience, and how do you create that? And kind of, I think the the key to it, at least from my perspective and what I've seen, and I have literally no clue what I'm doing some of these days, but like, that's the kind of thing is like I mentioned, and entrepreneurship is an adventure. Starting up something is an
yeah,
adventure, and so is design. And the exploration and the willingness to question observations and to ask things that people aren't willing to ask and to question your own assumptions, but at the same time, not discount them. To be balanced in your thought process and thinking, and to like articulate to users and really to yourself as well. Like, is this really a desirable product? And being critical about that. I look at I've got it on my phone. I've got like the prototype on my phone every single day, and I'm looking at it, asking myself critically, would is this the best thing I've ever seen in my life? Like, is this the most
right,
intuitive, beautiful, amazing thing I've ever seen? And the answer is usually
right,
going to be no, because clearly, like, you know you iterate towards that, you explore towards that. If the answer is no, what is it about the specific design that can be improved? And I'm always tweaking literally every day on that. And I think that's underplayed in design, and like the iterative process is there's a lot of like technical processes, but really you're sitting alone by
yeah,
yourself with the with the thing on your phone, like the prototype, and you're like looking at it. You ask yourself and just really grind like through the thought process of what is wrong with this. And like try to poke holes at it, but not be balanced in the poking hole process. And then how can I make it absolutely the best thing that has ever existed? So it's I think that's
right,
like for me, I'm trying to do that. We'll see if it ends up being that way, but it's the process of perfection. And there's nothing
right,
wrong with being a perfectionist if you're trying to, perfect yourself and achieve something that helps other people. It's just that is what
right,
innovation is, right? Like that's what, taking it to the next level is, or making something boring exciting is. It's just like moving things to the next uh, level, and critically asking yourself what's wrong with the current state of things. So that's what I'm always doing. Every single day I'm so
right.
critical. And it is so much fun, honestly. It's a blast.
No, I mean, and I think that's sort of the advantage that you have, right? Is that you're willing to be critical about what you have, and you can start iterating on it. While a lot of the bigger companies are unwilling to do that, or just don't like, or can't do that. I think that's one of the advantages of a startup, is that you can be critical about things, and you can be like, why are things like this, and how can we change it and
The
make it better for the
hierarchy and the
customer?
bureaucracy is
And I
real.
think,
I've been in organizations where you can't ask like free flowing thought. You can't like right what I'm doing right now is kind of thinking out loud. And you can't do that. You've got to be
yeah,
polished. You've got to have a formal, written statement of everything. But really, in a startup, you can free flow thought. It's a stream of consciousness of creation where you're just kind of building upon whatever the thought before it is. You don't need to document literally everything to show and prove
yeah,
whatever it is to anyone else. Like it's me and my co-founder. We trust each other implicitly, and we've got our own technical backgrounds that we're experts at. I fully trust him, he fully trusts me, and we have ownership over this idea together. And as we're building, it's a stream of consciousness, but it's also like we're passionate about this. I really would love this thing to exist, and I'm going to do whatever I can to make it
yeah,
happen. So, like, that's kind of what it is. And I think, like, yeah, the process of creating things. I hope that this is successful. I hope future is successful. There's no guarantee, but at the end of the day, I'm having the adventure, the process of perfecting myself and my craft, and the ability to create something that takes a stab at like moving the needle forward is in itself
Right.
like in worthy worthy pursuit. So that's if
Right.
and entrepreneurs listening, that's like, keep going. This is it's if it's worth it, it's worth it. You know.
Right. I mean, you're inspiring me, man.
The
That's
funniest thing is like whenever I'm like think this way, I'm like, man, I'm actually inspiring myself, trying to push myself to go forward the next day. Because there's payroll,
right.
there's overhead, there's all this other, fundraising stuff that can just be such a distraction. At the end of the day, like it was funny, like my co-founder and I, we just want to like create a really cool thing that people love to
Yeah.
use, and all this other stuff, it can be very demoralizing and distracting. So, yeah, if it's worth it, go for it.
Yeah, I think yeah, I think, that's something I've heard from a lot of entrepreneurs where it's like, you have to worry about, payroll, hiring, fundraising, all of that. But, at the end of the day, a lot of entrepreneurs are creators and they want to create new experiences. And so it's a necessary evil. I mean, you obviously have to do this in order to scale and bring your idea out to the world. But it's painful for them because they just want to keep creating and just keep working on it, and not have to worry about all that
That's true.
stuff.
That's true. Yep. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a perfect time to wrap up. Like this is really great. I'm really excited about future. Just as a sort of wrap up question before we get into sort of your next steps and what's next for future. I was just wondering, is there a book that you recommend reading or a piece of content that you've stumbled upon that you think we should check out?
I would say like in like the realm of like entrepreneurship, there's Paul Graham and all that kind of stuff is really great. I love like reading his essays, and I think like everyone knows that. But like for
Hmm.
me, actually something that's really been meaningful in my life is going back to like older books, like classics like that
Okay.
are one that really I remember I'm actually going back to pretty frequently is Plato had like a massive impact on my life, and that his actual like viewpoint and philosophy on like the theory of the forms and even like creating things that reflect the good, the true, and the beautiful, and pushing yourself to like a higher and higher state of being, like all that kind of stuff really I think is applicable to thinking about like the worldview and the way that things are. And that like imagine, I think Plato, one of his ideas was like, imagine if you were to see like beauty face to face, like it, the capital B form of it. And if anyone's familiar with the
Right.
idea in behind like the Republic and the symposium and all that stuff, is like if you were to see it face to face, you would be immediately dumbfounded, because everything that is beautiful in your life emanates from like a true form, and of there's some sort of common element that connects back to it. So as we're creating things, as we're artists and building and designing, we imitate the ultimate form of beauty. And really we're always trying to perfect to get to that state. That's architecture, that's design, that's engineering,
Right.
that's math, all that kind of stuff. So I'd say like I love going back to the beginning, and there's some lots of wisdom there that I like.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason it survived so many years, right? It's even though it was written back then, there's so much that's applicable throughout human history at any time, including today. So, 100% going back to the classics is it's pretty valuable, and I think I should be doing
Yeah,
it more
me too.
often.
I'm with you there.
But yeah, just to wrap up, what are the next steps for you in future? What's in the
So
pipeline?
this month, really grinding towards launching the MVP in. The goal is to do it by November. It's kind of an ambitious goal because we're going to launch uh, multiple checking accounts, as well as the app on the App Store. Or it'll be like a test flight version, so an MVP version. Basically, a testable product that we can test with users to do checking, budgeting, and then insights like your net worth, your cash flow, stuff like that. So anyways, we're going to be launching that very soon. And yeah, go to joinfuture.com.
Perfect. Well, I'm looking forward to it, and I'll probably check it out launch day. But yeah, thank you so much, Spencer, for coming onto the podcast. Really enjoyed having you. And until the next one, everyone, thank you so much.
Thank you.